In the Cesspit of Divine Decay is the fourth full-length album from Altar of Oblivion, an Aalborg, Denmark-based heavy/epic doom metal band, and one that is leaning a little bit more traditional in the epic doom metal sound on this record. And there's a couple of very good reasons for that, but we do kind of have to get through the complicated recent history of the band and their modus, because it's a little bit different in terms of the fact that during the pandemic, they decided to record, I believe, 3 albums worth of material, some of it old, some of it new, and some of it acoustic. And that led to some additional EP releases. The 2023 EP from the band was one of my favorite records of that year. Their 2019, their third record in 2019 was one of my favorite records that year. And basically their operatic vocal style, their very distinct sound, and their knack for incredible compositional fortitude throughout each of their full lengths has only improved with each record, still keeping in mind the traditional stance of epic doom metal a la Candlemass and beyond, but also working in traditional heavy metal like Doom Sword and bands like Argus would. First 2 records from the band are very different from what they've done beyond that point. The Seven Spirits, which I was referring to from 2019, and Burning Memories more recently, have more of an expressive, almost epic heavy metal leaning side to them, where the vocals are bursting with personality from Mick Mentor, and he's one of my favorite elements of this band. The expectation for this fourth full-length album is to follow up on the Seven Spirits and with a sound on Burning Memories, because some of those songs were fairly old when they were recorded, or they were recorded a long time ago and they were released several years later. Where we're at in time here is a lot of these songs were actually written back in 2005 and 2006, and some of those ideas were seedlings for what they created in writing this fourth album. And so we get some of the more severe 70s heavy metal touches. We get a little bit of the 80s traditional doom metal sounds on this record, but we also get that epic heavy doom metal dramatism of more recent releases. So we're getting everything from Altar of Oblivion all on one record, and they're kind of picking up from the past and the present for this album. Also a concept album on top of that. It's a lot to take in terms of just on paper figuring out what this record is all about. But once you sit with it, and if you're familiar with previous releases, you'll understand that this is just the next step of their sound and making it all work together. It's a cumulative effect here, and it makes for an impressive album. So we'll cut to a song here to get a sense of the sound of this album, the enriched production values, as well as the expressive style of the vocalist. Rather than create a salad of old and new ideas, it's the harmony between these ideas that really makes this album something special, I think, because it is a past and present self in conversation and refinement. That reads as naturally introspective, just as a process, but also as a music that is inherently emotionally driven, that is harmony driven, that is vocally driven as well, but also traditional heavy metal at its core. And so we get this striding, epic feeling heavy metal record that is telling a story of a personal story of the great grandfather of the songwriter and his diary as he fought for the Germans in World War I against his own kind of will, discovered his own demons in the process. There's this personal storyline and touch to this record that is pulling from a lot of different places for its trauma, and I think that makes for better poetry. It makes for better dramatism for an epic heavy metal record, but also just a more interesting record to cut through as I read the lyrics and figure out what's going on. And so if you nerd out on that stuff, or you just love this style, there's a lot of depth here that kept me listening and kept me attuned to it. It's kind of in line what you would expect as a natural progression in their discography, but also it's something new and more exuberant and better stated in the past. It feels very vital, and it feels like Altar of Oblivion is returning in a big way on this record that reinforced my fandom in particular. So, huge fan of this band. That's kind of my bias, and I think this is one of their best records. This released on June 28th. It does get a very high recommendation from me. You can read more about my thoughts and my opinions on the written review if you'd like. Give this one a chance and spend some time with it. I think if you're a fan of traditional doom metal in general, or just heavy metal with a dramatic or somber touch, I think you'll appreciate all that they put into this album. So check it out yourself.